Yellowface actually began, in some sense, way back during the protests about Miss Saigon, which were about protesting the casting of Jonathan Pryce as the Eurasian pimp in the musical Miss Saigon when it came to Broadway, as an example of Yellowface casting. And that, I think the issue is actually pretty complicated, and it got reduced to a media smackdown so quickly, and it just kind of stunned me a little. And so I continued to struggle with it for a number of years. I wrote a play called Face Value about it, which was not a success. And then I kept thinking it would be fun to do some sort of comedy of mistaken racial identity. And at a certain point, filmmakers like Greg Pak started putting me in movies playing myself, and I started to think, oh, I could do that too. I could write sort of a play with some version of myself as the central character and do a mockumentary. I guess I'm trying to just kind of blur the lines of these categories that we have for race, and that to some extent I feel like ultimately we should be going for a society where people can be part of cultures that they're attracted to, that it's not this face and our genes don't dictate the way that we live and the things that we're attracted to and our lifestyles. And I still feel that it's an incredibly valid point to say, as long as they're not going to cast James Earl Jones as George Washington, that when a role comes along for a minority, it should be cast with a minority. Otherwise, what kind of jobs are they going to get? But if you look back at the whole kind of history of multiculturalism and the movement and everything, I believe in it, and there were also some things about it that were extreme or kind of absurd or ridiculous. And this is a play that tries to make some fun out of that, while also appreciating that it was still a valuable movement. I think there's two separate things. There's an employment issue and there's an aesthetic issue. The employment issue, I think we already see that in, say, high schools or sometimes college productions where anybody can play anything. And in those cases, I'm fine with the actor who played Marcus here in San Diego was in an earlier play of mine called The Dance on the Railroad that was done at his high school, and he was playing a Chinese character in the 1860s. And I'm okay with that, because as long as it can go both ways, then there's not an employment problem. In terms of the aesthetics, that's always a more complicated issue, and I think on a case-by-case basis. And I think of like an Irish play, like Dancing at Lunasa by the Irish playwright Brian Friel. It came to Broadway with its original Irish cast, and then their visas ran out, and the play was popular, and they got replaced by American actors. And some people think that the Irish cast was better. And if that's true, there are some cases when it's really valuable to the material to have actors who are more familiar with the characters they're playing. I was really excited that kind of a younger generation of activists was taking on the Airbender issue, and aside from signing on to the website, I didn't really feel a great need to kind of get into that in a heavy way, but I do have like a 14-year-old son who grew up watching the original series, and he didn't approach the movie from a political standpoint, but he told me he thought it was really lame that they did it that way, and he didn't want to go see the movie. So that was about, that's sort of the extent of my involvement.